Hello, I am Frank Sedlock, and welcome to this podcast. We're talking about prophesized future events and mitigation. The looming predicted invasion of the United States and the weapon to reduce or mitigate the damage is what we're discussing today. Recent events show that we are already beginning World War I, but there'll be more upon this later. George Washington was given a vision at Valley Forge about our nation's future. This is an original document of that vision that was written in 1859, and it was given by Anthony Sherman, who was an aide-de-camp to George Washington, and written by Wesley Bradshaw. It's about 7 pages. It's put together by string. The first page is pretty dark because of it's been exposed to the elements. But this document shows 3 perils that are going to come to the United States. The first peril that at that time General George Washington was given was the Revolutionary War, which was just starting. The first threat, the Revolutionary War. The second threat was the American Civil War, yet to come. And the third threat was the war yet to come. Each of these lasted about 2 years, or it seemed to be around 2 years, and we're about 1 year into the final one. The peril would come from Europe, Asia, and Africa. And he saw vast armies devastate the whole country, burn the villages, cities, and towns. But heaven intervenes. Heaven intervenes. And here's what it says in the document. Instantly, a light as of 1,000 suns shone down from me from above. Then an angel with our national flag in one hand and a sword in the other descended from the heavens, attended by legions of white spirits. And that's what breaks up the invasion and gives us a chance to restore our nation. Is this hard to believe? Well, on December 10th, 2010, a Pennsylvania soul received a message from Jesus and Mary, and that message talked about Mary appearing to George Washington. On September 4th, 2011, this message was given to another person. "Oh, America, I appeared to your first president when he was still a general at Valley Forge. I told him of 3 moments in the history of the Republic: the present moment in which he found himself, a future moment when brother would kill brother, and a moment yet to come." And here we have one of those that talks about that, the woman in George Washington. And she says, "The Spirit of God must come upon America. The conversions must be true and deep. All of these evils would have never arisen if America had stayed true to the light. It is not too late, but there must be no delay. An unprepared America will shatter into many pieces. An America prepared by an outspouring of the Spirit will respond. I prophesied these times to George Washington, son of the Republic. Read my words. They reveal a woman who has always cared for America and promised her salvation." This vision account was published in 1880 in the National Standard, on the front page, word for word, as to what is in the original document that I have. The National Tribune, 1880, December. Also, in 1894, this lawyer sent a letter to the member of the family who had all these documents and said that he had passed, as they sent it to the family, looking for the vision. He said it was very valuable. That was in 1894. But in modern history, as I said, there have been locutions referring to Washington's vision. I told you about the one from September 4th, 2011. There's also one I told you about from September 3rd, 2014, in which he said, "The Spirit of God must come to America. The conversions must be deep and true." Well, I think I just related that one. So, and another one appeared, and that was, all right. One morning in Valley Forge, a woman appeared to George Washington, promised 3 events. The first, we would win the Revolutionary War and bring about the Union. The second, there would be a civil war, but the woman would preserve the Union. Both of these happened. The third event concerns 10 nations that come against the United States, which is saved only by the actions of the woman. This account was published in the Philadelphia Tribune and is available on the internet. And basically, we can take this out of the actual message itself. And again, I heard a mysterious voice saying, "Son of the Republic, look and learn." At this, the dark, shadowy angel placed a trumpet into his mouth and blew 3 distinct blasts, and taking water from the ocean, he sprinkled it upon Europe, Asia, and Africa. Then my eyes beheld a fearful scene. From each of these countries arose thick black clouds, which were soon joined into one. Throughout this mass there gleamed a dark red light, by which I saw hordes of armed men, who, moving with the cloud, marched by land and sailed by sea to America. Our country was enveloped in this volume of cloud, and I saw these vast armies devastate the whole country and burn the villages, towns, and cities that I had beheld springing up. As my ears listened to the thundering of the cannon and the clashing of swords and the shouts and cries of millions in mortal combats, I heard the mysterious voice saying, "Son of the Republic, look and learn." Then the voice ceased. The dark shadow angel placed his trumpet once more in his mouth and blew a long, tearful blast. And this is when heaven intervenes, as I said earlier about the light coming down. So we have this coming ahead of us. And, you know, there have been other warnings by the Blessed Mother. But right now, the world events show that we're in the beginning of this third peril. Mass immigration in many countries of military age of men, over 12 million illegal immigrants here. Will we battle these men? Will these men battle us internally while we are invaded from Europe, Asia, and Africa? Well, that's a good question. And let's see what it says here. We talked about them coming, and we talked about the light coming down. And when the light came down, these immediately joined the inhabitants of America, who I perceived were well nigh overcome, but who immediately took courage again, closed up their broken ranks, and renewed the battle. So we do become victorious. But has Our Lady or heaven warned other people at other difficult times? Yes, they have. Well, let's look at one. The Battle of Lepanto. In 1453, the Ottoman Turks conquered the western capital of the Christendom, Constantinople, and made it Istanbul. And within 75 years, had taken over a number of countries. They were in Spain, they were in Portugal, they were in the Bulgaria and Romania, and they were approaching to try to get to Rome. So they were coming up from the south, and the Pope Pius V heard about it, and he organized 240 ships. Now, there were 300 large Ottoman ships coming up, and off of Corfu, the northwest part of Corfu, which is across the strait from the boot of Italy, they met in the Battle of Lepanto. We can talk a little bit about that. On the morning of October 7th, 1571, the Christian fleet set sail in search of the Muslim fleet to meet them head on. Don Juan and his men had no idea they were sailing toward an advanced and highly trained Muslim fleet of more than 300 vessels and 100,000 men. Though the Christian fleet had close to 285 vessels, they only had 70,000 men, many of whom were unskilled in naval combat. The two forces caught sight of each other for the time in a large bay just south of the town of Lepanto, Greece. Once they saw each other, they formed battle lines, and the battle was on. The battle lasted 5 bloody hours. But what happened is that the wind came up, and the big Ottoman ships had trouble navigating, and they were crashing into each other, and the smaller ships of the Catholic forces were able to defeat them. The Turkish fleet lost more than 30,000 men. 34 Muslim admirals and 120 gallery captains were among the dead. The Muslim fleet also lost the majority of its vessels. The Christian fleet was able to set free nearly 15,000 Christian gallery slaves who had been aboard the Muslim vessels. It was a complete and a total victory for Christendom. But the problem is that kind of backed off the Muslim desire to take over the Christendom for a while. But as we know, they're making a lot of inroads right now. And that's why we need help. And that help is us. And that help is the Rosary. Now, what has the Rosary done in the past? Well, if you can believe it, there was a Rosary miracle at Hiroshima. The atom bomb landed there, and there was a little group of priests who were praying, and their place survived, and they survived, and they never even got radiation sickness. They were praying the Rosary. Here's a little bit about it. Father Hubert Schiffler, who headed a community, was virtually untouched by the nuclear blast with no radiation found in his body, and publicly testified to the miracle. Suddenly, a terrific explosion filled the air with one bursting thunderstroke. An invisible force lifted me from the chair, hurled me through the air, shook me, battered me, whirled me round and round like a leaf in a gust of autumn wind. He remembered that when he opened his eyes, he found himself lying on the ground. He looked around, and there was nothing in any direction. The railroad station and buildings in all directions were leveled to the ground. The only physical harm to himself was that he felt a few pieces of glass on the back of his neck. Isn't that amazing? He survived, and they survived. Another time the Rosary was used, recent in modern times, was in Vienna after World War II. After World War II, Austria was divided by the Allies, with the eastern half, including Vienna, falling under Soviet control. The people of Vienna suffered under communist oppression. In 1946, Father Pavlik, deeply concerned about the state of his country, made a pilgrimage to Mariazell, Austria's principal Marian shrine. There, while praying before the image of Our Lady, he heard a clear message: "Do as I say, and there will be peace." The message echoed the words of Our Lady of Fatima, who had promised peace could be attained through the Rosary and devotion to the Immaculate Heart. Father Pavlik understood that prayer, particularly the Rosary, was the key to freeing Austria from the oppressors. In 1947, Father Pavlik launched the Holy Rosary Crusade, gathered people from all across Austria to pray the Rosary on the 13th of each month, the date associated with the apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima. He traveled across Soviet-controlled Austria with a statue of Our Lady of Fatima. Leading prayer processions in villages, towns, and cities. The movement grew rapidly, And soon it was not just ordinary citizens participating in the processions, but also priests, bishops, and even high-ranking government officials. By 1955, over 500,000 people, roughly 1/10 of Austria's population, were praying the rosary for peace and liberation. Despite numerous peace conferences over the years, the Soviet grip on Austria remained firm. That is, until 1955, when in an unexpected turn of events, the Soviets announced their intention to withdraw from Austria. On May 15th, the month of Mary, the Soviets signed a treaty guaranteeing Austrian independence. By October, the month of the Rosary, the last Soviet soldier left the country. The Rosary processions had succeeded when human efforts had not. How about even more recently? Nigerian bishops Rosary campaign against Boko Haram. In April 2014, Boko Haram kidnapped more than 200 young girls from a school in Nigeria. Boko Haram was a notorious radical Muslim group that violently slaughters non-Muslims by means of decapitation and burning people alive. In December 2014, Jesus appeared to the Catholic Bishop of Nigeria, and instructed him that the rosary was the weapon that would overcome Boko Haram. Bishop Oliver Domi, the Diocese of Maiduguri, Nigeria, claims that one evening while he was playing the rosary, Jesus appeared to him holding a sword. During the vision, Jesus extended the sword toward the bishop. When the bishop went to take the sword from Jesus, it miraculously transformed into a rosary. Once the bishop had the rosary sword in his hands, Jesus looked at him and said 3 times, Boko Haram is gone, Boko Haram is gone, Boko Haram is gone. At any rate, he organized the people there to pray the rosary, and Boko Haram was defeated. So that's what we need now. We need to be praying the rosary. I mean, not just a few people. I mean, there are rosary processions going on in various places, large ones. But each individual that hears this should be praying the rosary. And if you really want to take care of your family, pray the rosary as a family. I'm fortunate in that my parents had 14 living children. But when I remember there was only about 9 of us. I'm the third oldest, only about 9 of us. And we had a picture to the Sacred Heart. And we would put us all there during Lent to pray the rosary as a family. And that really made a difference, I think, in our family. We're a blessed family. And I think all families need to do that. And I'm fortunate that my wife and I, that we can pray the rosary together every evening as a family. Well, so, you know, we've also been very blessed, Sandy and I. We've been to Fatima, and we were there for the 75th apparition on October 14th. And I was able to go up behind the altar and take pictures of the crowd and pictures of the priests processing in. And I made a big picture of that. We also have been to Lourdes. And again, at that time I just had knee surgery and was in a wheelchair. And my friend, Deacon Steve, wheeled me right up. We were right up to the front next to the bishop and all the people at the evening prayer group at Lourdes. But we've also been to Medjugorje. We've been to, which is interesting, Zedouin, Egypt. In Zedouin, Egypt, the Blessed Mother appeared to over 1 million people, including the president of Egypt. She was appeared on the dome of the church in Zedouin. This is a picture of the dome inside. But right above that is where she appeared, and you should be able to find pictures of that. Zedouin, Egypt. We've been to, within the United States, well, before we get there, in Italy, the Madonna of Sivizia. This is a little statue that a family had, and the statue started weeping blood. And the bishop heard about it, came, and he took the statue, and he put it in his closet. But it didn't last so long because it kept bleeding and crying and weeping. So he finally did approve of the message of Sidovicia. I've been to Mexico, to Our Lady of Guadalupe, and was fortunate enough to get a couple tapestries of Our Lady of Guadalupe when I was visiting Istanbul one time, and have taken it to the March for Life and taken it to some abortion clinics. And I've also been to a place in Ohio, an apparition site in Ohio, a beautiful apparition site where Our Lady appeared on a bank building. I guess there's other places, but been fortunate, and so rely on praying the Rosary, ask the Blessed Mother for help, but most importantly, let's just see what it says here, and notes. It is a time for all Americans. I've taken this from some other people that have looked into this. It is a time for all Americans to heed the warning that patriots have been carrying across this land for several decades. The people of this nation are entering a period of great trial and tribulation. There will be an economic collapse, then a disintegration of domestic order, followed by anarchy and foreign invasion. There will be armed conflicts with terrible death and destruction. America is the promised land, and the Christian people of North America are God's chosen people. We will prevail because it is our destiny to prevail. But we have permitted corruption, perversion, immorality, greed, personal pleasure, and materialism become our way of life. We have permitted alien anti-Christians to gain control of our country. We have allowed traitors to hold the highest positions of authority within our nation. We have reached such a point of degradation that we are even killing our own unborn children, bringing about our own genocide. And sadly, in this state of Massachusetts, they just passed that you can have abortions right up to birth. The governor, terrible. Therefore, because of immorality, loss of faith, and abandonment of our God-centered heritage, America and her people will receive a chastisement of immeasurable ferocity. The events which you are reading are about neither fiction, a patriotic story, nor a series of simple historical happenings. The authenticity of Washington's revelation is clearly supported by a number of other prophecies given over the past number of years, and I've given you some of them. So all I can say is, may God have mercy on us, and please say the Rosary and pray for our nation. Okay, are you here? I got it done just in time. Yeah. Now let's see if it's there, and let's see what we can do about it.